you very much. This is what its conference is about. Who can quote the first value pair of the Agile Manifesto? Brexit land, do you know it?
Yes.
Okay. Individuals and interactions over processes and tools, and very often it's about enabling. So giving the possibility to, and that's what our conference is for. So we wish for you that you have 2 days full of new information, new discussions, and broaden your perspective, and this time with the new topic of the road of Agile. But first we need to get this thing running. So there are 3 main organizers here, which I would like to invite me on the stage. Wolfgang Richter, the CEO of Chip IT, Gerhard Hammer, the CEO of APUS, and Andreas Mitterer, who is not the CEO, but somebody very important, so the head of the Agile Advisory Department. Please, Gerhard, welcome.
Yeah. Oh, I should say something.
I think you all know the stage very well, so who are you, what's your company?
Okay. Yeah, welcome, Wolfgang Richter. I'm from Chip IT. It's my pleasure to welcome you here in Graz for the 3rd time now this year. So it's running already. So it's getting a little bit bigger and bigger every year, and it's getting, I could say, better. We are on the continuous improvement path, you know. So every year we are getting better and better. It's almost routine already. That's the reason why we try something new every year, right? Because otherwise it might get boring, and we don't want to have this happen. So we have some new exciting events. You will introduce at least one of that. Okay, you don't know it. Okay. You see, we are fully aligned. Yeah, enjoy. 2 more days with a lot of workshops, a lot of talks, a lot of agility. Enjoy and have fun, I would say. Yeah.
Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Gerhard Hammer from APUS. You talked about fun, and I think one of the most important things on conferences and for software developers are drinking coffee. And I would like to invite you to visit all of us, to visit our stand out there, get in contact with our colleagues, and get a good cup of come si dice in italiano, un vero caffè italiano, sia un espresso, un lungo, un ristretto. Grazie.
And thank you for the password with the coffee, because one thing I need to tell about Chip IT. Chip IT became 10 years this year, so we will celebrate with a cake. Yeah, it will arrive. So you can have a cake at our booth.
Yeah, good morning from my side, Andreas Mitter from Bearing Point. I would like to welcome you as well. I'm really happy that so many people came to Graz, it's again the 3rd time that we have full house here. So really thank you very much for coming and making Graz the center of agility, I think, in the next 2 days. I want also to say something about Bearing Point. We have 2 showcases, so we want to show our capabilities today and tomorrow about Agile software development. So come to our booth. Today we will show you how Agile and artificial intelligence fits together. So if you're interested in, visit us. And tomorrow we want to show you the Google Maps for the river transport industry. So we have developed it together with TU Berlin. So if you're interested in how this might look like, visit us tomorrow. And to remember the Agile Austria 2019, we have a photo box outside. So if you want to make photos and if you have visited a lot of people here, come outside, make a photo. It's a Polaroid camera, and you get immediately the photo. So a cool picture taking home. Yeah.
Thank you. What's a Polaroid?
It's called Polaroid.
What's a Polaroid? I'm from a different generation, you know. In my personal opinion, every good product should start with the vision. And Gerhard, you did it 2 years ago on stage, and you presented, in my opinion, a very personal and a very good shared vision I think a lot of can connect to. So what is the vision of the conference, the Agile Austria?
Yes, this picture is always in my mind, and we all have to keep in mind that we are responsible for our planet. And for me personally, today's motto, a road to Agile, is a very concrete step towards our vision. Because for me personally, and I think for all of you, Agile isn't standing for itself. Agile is a certain kind of vehicle, becoming more and more self-responsible, getting more and more in contact to each other, becoming more and more, let me say, in a collaboration and coordinational mindset. And for me personally, and I think it's for all of you, and especially for you in the auditorium and being part of this conference, this is a very important step, using agility as a vehicle, becoming more social responsible. And that, I think, the next step, being really beware for our planet, is becoming more social responsibility.
Thank you very much. Behind the mission, there are some, I call them mission blocks. I know nobody else will do, but we already have like the third conference topic. You can see the color and even the font style is changing year by year. We started with the heart of Agile. We got into the outlook into the future, and this year we are looking on the road to Agile. You were talking about a vehicle, and of course, there needs to be someone who is steering the wheel. Just imagine a Ferrari with a self-organizing team behind. There is some explaining or organizing to do how they will do that. And off the top of a company, you normally have a CEO, and we have here 3 people I think have experience with leading. So my question would be, how do you lead on the road towards agility?
Yeah, it's a mean question, you know.
Yeah, that's why I'm asking it.
First of all, I don't see myself as a CEO because this has some connotation, this word. I mean, on my business card I write Agile CEO, whatever that really means, because yeah, still some people need to see this. It's a status symbol almost sometimes. What I don't like is to behave like that, you know. What I really prefer much more is to have a more sociocratic structure in the organization. That means let people do what they can do. And that's my way of leading, actually.
Thank you.
I was really happy that we have chosen this motto this year, because for me the road to Agile means that agility is not only limited to Agile teams, and I'm really happy that many companies already have realized that you have to consider the entire company when you want to go Agile. And I think that's the part that we have to consider as an Agile leadership, yeah? That being an Agile company or being an Agile company doesn't only mean that you have to focus on Agile teams and Scrum teams and all the stuff, but really focus on the entire company, and being the leadership must be the first Agile teams, and trust in the people, and trust, like Wolfgang said, in what they can do, and then everything comes on their own.
And then everything comes from their own. Thank you very much. And now, Gerald, please, the third perspective on the same topic.
That's the third perspective. Yes, I think my life personally has 2 very important tasks, and they seem to be very similar. One of those is being part of my family and being responsible as a part of this family, and the other one is being part of a company. And rethinking this responsibility, being part of a structure day by day, really day by day, is, I think, the way of being a certain kind of leader.
Okay. Thank you very much. And one last thing, because one of you is trying to research how agility is actually currently in Austria going on. Yeah, we say we need transparency, we need a status quo, and one company of you three already started.
Yes, actually, we started recently a study. It's called Agile Pools. What is it all about? I think if I ask someone of you, or everybody will say, is your company agile? They would answer it with yes. But the question is, and that's what we want to find out with the study, is how agile is your company really? Yeah? And that's why we started this survey, and I want to invite you. It's an online study. It takes you about 10 minutes. So if you're interested in, please visit agile-pools.bearingpoint.com, answer the questions there. It's anonymous, of course, so we don't know which company you belong to. And of course, you get a free copy afterwards when the study is finished. So I would really like to invite you, and let's see how agile Austria really is.
Thank you. I myself. So I'm a self-employed, so can I also do the study?
Of course you can.
Yeah, okay, perfect. Thank you very much for you three. It wouldn't be possible if there is not a strong hand of three organizations working together, organizing this conference. Just let it there. Thank you. To get so many people in the house, well, we need a roof, and for this we want to thank two people of the Chamber of Commerce. Dominik Neumann, the chairman of the Chamber of Commerce, for consulting, accounting and information technology, and Dr. Werner Lämmerer, the CEO of the Chamber of Commerce. And I would ask Dominik Neumann, please on the stage to join me to say something. Please give him a warm welcome.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, dear Agile people, on behalf of our president, Josef Herk, and for sure my own behalf, I sincerely welcome you in the capital of Styria. Welcome in Graz. It's really a great thing that already the third time this conference is taking place here, and it's, as said before, getting more and more every year. And I think it's really time to thank these three guys with their teams who are organizing it. So please give them a hand and say thank you for all this job, for all this work. Agile is getting more and more important in every way in life. It's getting more important every year, and it's not just the agile development, it's not just the agile business development, it's the agile consulting. I think in every part of business, agility is getting more and more important. And so maybe when there's the motto, the road to agility or the road to agile, we can talk one day or in near future from the agile lifestyle. And so I wish you very, very informative conference and many innovative ideas, and have fun. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Who was here the last year? Thank you. Who knows what comes next?
I hope. Go for it.
Okay, I thought maybe that would work. It didn't. So I would ask this part of the room to do like this. Okay, forget the hand, just take the feet. Okay, that's more than enough. And you do the second part with your hands. Clap. Yeah. You know, I'm still not awake that much, so I need to get my blood pumping. Come on. Let's go. Of course we have sponsors. I could just read them one by one, but another way it makes more fun. Welcome everybody to our conference. Without these sponsors, we wouldn't have a chance. Wirecard is top. ePoint is second. Without the HL experts, it wouldn't have happened. ECX.io and Boris Gorga came and said hello. We've got Netconomy, the Chamber of Commerce, Raiffeisen Bank. of course, international corporate culture champ, business consents, Embark Software Consulting chance, Bosnia Agile, the Agile to Vienna, connect, 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 Computer World for Reading and the Freiräume here. Make some noise, the Agile Emir and the Wastebox here. If you don't know where to go here, we've got Event Bird. He will tell you everywhere. US by PerfectNet and this IT, community, Styria. And at the end we take Collabri, Steinmeier Convention, the Project Magazine. Peace. I tell you, it's the natural drug, yeah, of in German we call it Rampensau. Okay. The next one on stage, I want to have Oliver Flagel, please, from Wirecard. You are the top and main sponsor. You're searching for, no, for this one.
Thank you.
Please, the stage is yours.
Thank you. I did not prepare a rap, but we are very happy to be a sponsor of this conference because we believe whatever brings people together and helps the community to move forward is a great investment. Who of you knows Wirecard? A few. So we provide products and services for payment, around payment, and related to payments, or as we like to call it, beyond payments. And these are really a lot of products. As you can see, this is just a high-level overview of our portfolio. So we are not small. The Wirecard family has more than 5,000 members, highly motivated members all around the world. And not only are we at home all around the world, but the world feels at home at Wirecard. In our headquarters in Munich, people from over 100 different nations work together to create visionary products. So when teams scattered all around the world from different cultures, with all the unique personalities, work together on this huge portfolio, there's only one thing that helps us to succeed in the market, and that is being agile. Not just doing agile, but moving forward, getting the best out of our organization and ourselves. And we're open to share our experience with agile large-scale software development. So feel free to get in touch with us at this conference, in the Agile meetups, in the IT community Styria, or just visit us. You are always welcome. So thank you very much for your time. Enjoy the conference and stay agile. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well done. So, the time box is tingling me because I have 5 minutes left and 20 minutes to talk. What do we have prepared for this year? These are the two main blocks there to get an idea what you're going through the whole 2 days. We start with the welcome and the keynote today. Then we have a program, lunch from 12 to 13. Of course, in the program there will be breaks that you can connect and mingle together. And if that is not enough, at 6 p.m. sharp, there will be a transfer from here to the Tuesday mingle, which will be at the Café Promenade. And tomorrow it will be the same, but at the end we try something new, a fishbowl. Yeah? Wolfgang came with this idea to me and I was skeptical at first, but he had one counter argument which made all my arguments like blowing away, and this was, have you done it before? And I was like, no, I didn't. So, end of discussion. We'll be really, really excited, interested by myself how this will work. And then at 16:45 there will be the raffle. Yes, there's something to win here, and the goodbye. Then we have our two main speakers, Dr. Klaus Leopold with his keynote, Why Agile Teams Have Nothing to Do with Business Agility. Maybe he's flying you up to the next level. And Gojko Adatic, Maximum Impact and Minimum Effort. For the main tracks, well, during the day we are in the complete house. Why Agile? Doesn't make sense. It's now 18 years ago, I think 18 years ago, the Agile Manifesto was written. Well, what were the findings? What does it mean to be agile? There's still many discussions about hyper-agile, nano-agile, what und so weiter agile. Then how to agile, how do we come there? Our third track, the case studies. Yeah? How did other companies or people applied it, and what are the learnings and the findings? And our bonus track this year, gamification. I think it's a very interesting topic. You have games and you have work. Are they combinable? Like two completely different systems. The one is about enjoy and fun, but even players, you can see them like 12 hours per day working, or it looks like working. How can these two be together? And then of course, if all the agile stuff is way too much, and it's already a little bit bleeding out of your ears because of the discussions and what the other people are telling, well, we have a coaches clinic, and there is one guy who is, well, I wouldn't say the head of, I would say the lead. Lead is better, right? Spotify's leader, so.
I would say the organizer.
Okay.
Because Coaches Clinic is some platform where we try to connect people, experienced coaches, with people that have some questions. Maybe they are in some certain situation, transition state or whatever, personnel situation. So please feel free to contact me, contact my colleagues. I'm always at close to the entrance. You will find two whiteboards with Coaches Clinic. We try to connect people for 15 minutes time slots. The coachings will be free, so we're looking for experienced people that want to share their knowledge voluntarily, yeah? Because that's what we humans do. We like to share our knowledge, yeah? And we also look for people that have some interesting questions. So maybe you find each other, and feel free to contact me and my colleagues. Thank you.
That's Didi, by the way.
Yep.
Thank you very much. So I can come to you regardless any question, right? So I'm kind of in a leading position here, like 230 people. How do I lead 230 people, Didi? That would be my question. Agile, right? Okay, thank you. Yeah, today at night, to stretch your legs and have an informal talk about what is agility, what's not, what is leading. At 6 p.m. we have two buses, cabrio bus and normal bus. We don't make any differentiations. So if you're the moderator, or if you're an organizer, or if you're a keynote speaker, or a normal conference participant, the cabrio bus is limited to 30 people. First come, first serve. And if somebody wants to walk, it's not that far. It's 6:30, we started the Café Promenade. And of course, you will be invited for dinner. And of course, there are drinks for free, just two. On the back of your badge, you will have the tickets. It should be two. And it will be roughly around an Aperol Spritzer or something in between. You can choose. And of course, the tapas are delicious. Damn. Some infos, well, we have a gong during the breaks and the lunch break, so it will be one time, 5 minutes before and then 2 minutes before, so that you know it will go on. Then we have a Twitter wall with the hashtag Agile Austria Conference outside. We have a feedback wall behind there. Maybe you sat on the green dots. I know last year it was meant for the Perdu. This year we have the same green dots, but there is meant for something else. Yeah, it was really a blamage last year, so I didn't want to do this again. So this time the green dots, please make a rating of your entrance when you exit this, but not of me, please of Klaus. Yeah, and don't stick anything to the walls. Yeah, these are the house rules, and we are guests. So thank you. We have a raffle this year. This means please tweet. Interact with the people on the Twitter social media medium, and we have 3 prizes. The conference ticket for 2002 for the ticket with the most likes. Then we have Klaus Leopold's book Rethinking Agile on 3rd place, his Agilität neu denken. So if you're preferring English or German, well, it really will be a hard job to get the right place you want to have, and the hashtag Agile Austria Conference. So, the road to Agile. I think it has a lot of things to do to leadership, or just the simple term how to lead. And depending where you are, it's a different perspective, because I am standing here on this stage right now, and I have gratefully and thankfully the attention of 230 people of you. Thank you very much for this. And, well, it's kind of, well, you need to think how you're leading 250 people. If I do a training, I have 12 people. It's different. And if you work as a Scrum Master, it's completely different. And if you work with one people, for me, there's one thing that's always kind of the same. It's about leading. Yes, I need to skip that because don't have time, don't want to stretch it more, but I have one experiment here. So who is from Austria, actually? I think if you're living long enough, that's fine. So I want to try something out. It could probably go wrong, but if you feel the urge to do something, be childish. If you feel the urge to give something because there's something bubbling up, just go. Could it be that the presentation has no sound? Okay, doesn't matter. We try something different. Okay. I would kindly ask you please to stand up and put your both hands into the front. Then put your thumbs down. I'm loud enough, gladly. And then you take your right hand and put it over your left hand, right? And you connect. Important thing, please, the right thumb needs to be down. Yeah, yeah. And then you just do this. It's all leadership, right? Sometimes confusion. When I'm like here on stage, or if I'm on my trainings, well, I can tell you my secret, and I think you know it from somewhere. It's adapted. So agility, I think most of you know, is adaptable. For me, it's to lead an audience in an entertaining and informative way by doing so and helping others. What this means, well, I have no time. For this, I will explain my magic to you tomorrow morning sharp at 9. It's just that you will be on punctual. But there are different people with different leading styles. For example, this leading style.
Chance to kick some ass for Mother Earth.
I'm listening.
Well, I've narrowed your choices down to 5 unthinkable options. Each will cause untold misery.
I picked number 3.
You don't even want to read them first?
I was elected to lead, not to read. Number 3.
So, this is a different leading style, of course. And sometimes, well, it reminds me when I worked my first job as a Scrum Master, you have kind of this leading style. Enough from me. Klaus, are you ready? Thank you very much. Please welcome one guy who is trying to fly up to the next level. A pioneer in Kanban, rethinking Agile from bottom to top. Lean ability is his thing. Dr. Klaus Leopold, please a hearty welcome.
Dankeschön.
Yeah. You know we are Agile here, so.
Sure. Thank you.
You have all the time you need.
Yeah, I'm taking my time.
Yeah, I took like 10 minutes from your talk.
That's okay. I can talk faster. Speak faster, you know?
Or you can just like take 10 minutes from the break from the people.
Oh, you're nice. I see what you're doing here.
It's just my leading style. Have fun on the stage, Klaus.
Thank you. It's working. Perfect. So, good morning, everybody. The title of my presentation is Rethinking Agile, and it probably has something to do with my book, which is also called Rethinking Agile. And, well, the subtitle basically spoils what's going on in this presentation. So, why Agile teams have nothing to do with business agility. And when I mean nothing, when I say nothing, I really mean nothing. So, what is it about? Well, I want to share a story with you. A story about an organization, and this organization wanted to become, they actually had some problems in the first place, right? So they had some problems, and one of the main problems was that they were just slow. You know, this time to market of their project was always going up, going up, going up, and it feels like, okay, it takes ages until one of these projects is being finished. Do you know situations like this? Yeah? Good. So, I mean, not good, but still. Well, so if you are not fast enough, there's some more problems tied to this. So one thing is that they are definitely no longer proactive on the market. So there's competitors, and the competitors are just overtaking them, and they're just trying to keep up. That's not a good thing, right? The other thing is opportunities in the market. Well, there are opportunities, but it takes longer to set up one of their projects, and then the opportunity is already gone, right? Also not a good thing to do. And there's one more thing, and this is change is going on out there. You've heard about artificial intelligence, probably. Blockchain. There are all these disruptive business models and stuff like this. And this organization was like, okay, if we continue like this, well, the future will take place, but most likely without us. And that's not a good thing. So they decided to change something. And what do you need to do if you are in a problem situation like this? We become agile. Right? Because with agility, we can solve all these problems right away, no problem. Yeah? Well, that's basically what they did. So they started one of these agile transformations. So what did they do? Well, the very first thing, cross-functional teams. I don't think I need to talk about cross-functional teams here. Everybody knows what this means. We build cross-functional teams because we want to put as much knowledge as possible into one cell, into one team, so that we remove dependencies and that these guys can deliver fast to the market. Perfect idea. They even went one step further. They were like, okay, we're also doing product teams. We're doing cross-functional product team. That's the holy grail. You know, product teams means one team is only working on one product. I mean, that's awesome, right? This means, again, we're removing dependencies. What else? Well, I kind of like this one because I'm not very dogmatic, and they were also like, okay, we're also not too dogmatic. So there's plenty of models out there and methods one could use, and well, teams can choose whatever agile method they want to do. So not a problem. There are only some minimum requirements that each and every team needs to fulfill. Requirement number 1, visualization. I think everybody heard about it, right? Each and every team needs a board. The idea is you go to the team and you can immediately talk with the team about what they are doing, where the problems are, and so on. So each and every team needs to visualize their work. What else? Stand-up meetings. You've heard about stand-up meetings, right? Short feedback loops, so that we can act quickly when something is going on. Retrospectives was another requirement. Each and every team needs to do retrospectives. And, well, it's a good thing because we want to continuously learn, we want to continuously improve, so each and every team needs to do retrospectives. Perfect. And there was one more thing, measurements. I kind of like this one. So they were like, okay, we want to see whether we are improving or not. So each and every team needs to do some measurements. It's basically 2 different kinds of measurements. One thing is lead time, cycle time, which means how fast are we delivering. And the other one is throughput. Throughput is how much are we delivering, like velocity, throughput. This is how much, right? So this was basically their program. Yeah, each and every team needs to do something like this. And I think if you have read only one Agile textbook, you probably think now, awesome. I mean, they really got it, right? I mean, that's what you need to do, right? Each and every textbook says that's what you need to do, and all your problems are being solved. So, well, how did they approach this transformation? Well, the very first thing, what they did is they set up a 1.5-year transformation project. Can you feel something? I mean, it's actually my kind of humor, right? So we want to become agile, and the very first thing that pops up in our mind, let's define a waterfall plan to become agile. Not a good thing to do in the end, right? But we can talk about this a little bit later. But okay, that's what they did. So they did this waterfall plan, and in this plan, there were some milestones and stuff what they need to achieve. One thing is, we need to somehow train our people. So we're talking about 600 people here, and I'm pretty sure you've already heard about this. Agility is not so much about the practices. Agility is much more about the mindset. Have you heard about this? It's about the agile mindset. So all people need to have the right mindset, and if only the mindset is in place, everything will be great. So what they did this one-day agile mindset training to enlighten all the people, yeah? So, well, maybe I'm not sure if this helps, one-day training for 600 people, but yeah, okay, that's, but then they could basically check the checkbox like mindset established. Okay, what else? Reorganization was carried out. Reorganization means you throw up the people in the air and they land somewhere else in the organization. So, that's another thing. Then, sorry. Agility was implemented, their wording, rolled out basically team by team. So the Kanban teams received Kanban training, the Scrum teams received Scrum training, like Scrum Masters were educated, product owners, and so on. In the beginning, everything was supported by roughly, no, it wasn't roughly, it was precisely 16 external coaches, which is a cool thing if you are running a consulting company. So it's a good job, right? But if you take a look at the program, well, there's a lot to do. We're talking about 600 people who need to receive the training. Then when they start to implement Scrum and Kanban, we're talking about 2-day training classes like the Scrum Master, the product owner, maybe even 3-day training classes. And then you need to help them. Nobody knows how people can talk together in a stand-up meeting or do a retrospective or something like this. So you really need to help them in the end if you have a program like this. They were also kind of smart because they were like, okay, we also build up internal knowledge. So they built up capabilities, more or less, for 11 internal agile coaches. And I think this makes a lot of sense, because what I've seen too often, when the external people are here, the consultants, everything is okay, and when the consultants are leaving, people are usually like, oh, now we can switch back to normal. Well, you don't want that your people work normal ever again if you invest this money here, yeah? So yeah, that's what they did. After roughly a year, they reported that 80% of the teams were fully transformed. Kind of like this language. So, it reminds me of Star Trek. Are there some Star Trek fans? Yeah, the Borg. You're fully assimilated. Yeah, so, okay, but yeah, their language. So 80% were fully transformed. What does this mean? They could check a lot of checkboxes, you know, so we have boards, stand-up meetings, yeah, we have seen a retrospective here and over there, and so on. So a lot of checkboxes were being checked. There was only one checkbox, which was metrics. And they were like, yes, we can check this checkbox, but maybe it's a good idea to take a look. So what do the metrics tell us? And yeah, that's where it was becoming a little bit interesting, let me put it that way. So I have some metrics with me here. So Scrum sprint velocity. I think everybody knows Scrum sprint velocity, right? So what we see here is trend metrics. So it's not one metric for one team, it's basically kind of the general trend of many teams. Yeah? Sprint velocity is a throughput measure. This means how much are we delivering. So on the x-axis you see the trend, and on the y-axis you see the Scrum fantasy point. Story points. My fault. You see the story points, yeah? And the expected result was to see something like this. In the beginning, there's not too much throughput, velocity, but it will go up, definitely, right? Because that's the reason why we are doing this here. And yeah, that's what they expected. Guess what the actual result looked like? It was like this. And then they were like, what's going on here? I mean, yes, we somehow figured out that there's an increase in the beginning, but then it was getting worse. So teams were delivering less after some time. And then, yeah, you could hear the first voices where they're like, okay, we always told you, Scrum doesn't work. So let's take a look at the Kanban teams, because with Kanban, we don't have these problems, right? Well, yeah, let's see. So here are some Kanban metrics. What we see here is the trend of the cycle time, of the lead time. This means how fast are we delivering. So on the x-axis, you see the trend, and on the y-axis, the speed, more or less, the lead time. And the expected result was, we want to see something like this. Lead time is going down, and that's the minimum we can expect. Have you ever read one of these Kanban case studies? Times 2, times 3. We are delivering 10 times faster. If you're not delivering, 10 times faster, you are a complete loser. Yeah? So that's the minimum that we can expect according to all these great case studies. So, well, yes, and the actual result looked like this. And then they were like, okay, we don't understand what's going on here. Yeah. So, yeah. What is the problem, actually? Well, hard to say. There's one thing. It's quite hard to compare these metrics, because we're talking about team metrics here, and they were doing this reorganization. This means I cannot compare this performance of this team, because there is no team I can compare with, because this team did not exist before. It's a completely new team. Maybe that's awesome what we see here, right? However, there was one metric which they have taken already before they did this Agile journey. And this was actually the reason why they started this whole Agile thing, and this was time to market of their initiatives. Okay, in the beginning they were called projects, but initiative sounds a little bit more Agile, right? So, yeah, so we have the time to market of the initiatives. The time to market was developing like this. We were getting slower. That's not good. So the idea was, we want to do exactly now our Agile transformation, because we want to see something like this. Time to market needs to go down. And that's what you read in all the Agile case studies, right? Guess what the actual result looked like? And now it's getting a little bit complicated, right? Because now what we see is that actually, although they are Agile, time to market increased, so it was getting worse. And the people were like, what the fiddlestick is going on here? This doesn't make any sense, right? So what's going on here? Well, that's where I got a phone call from this organization. And they were like, okay, we've heard you talk on a conference about local optimization versus global optimization and stuff like this. Could you please come and visit us and take a look? Maybe there's something going on what you were talking about all the time. And I was like, yeah, sure, we can do this. And so I visited them, yeah? And it was just for roughly, I guess it was 1.5 days or so. And yeah, I had some good conversations there. So I was talking to the teams, because that's where agility took place. So all the teams were Agile, either Scrum or Kanban design thinking. So there was quite a lot to see and to talk about. And yeah, well, that's what I did. So I started some conversations with the teams. And the first thing was about dependencies. So the cool thing is, no matter which team I visited, there was a board. And this means we could just talk about, okay, what are we seeing here? And more or less the boards looked like this. So we have something like, this is the stuff we need to do in the backlog. Then we have this next column. This means, okay, that's the stuff we want to deliver next. Develop means, okay, that's what we are currently working on. And done means done, right? Quite obvious. For Scrum teams, it looked pretty much like the same. The backlog was something like the sprint backlog. Then we had, the other way around. The product backlog, then we had the sprint backlog, our sprint, and then we were done, right? There was one thing which each and every team shared, basically. So I've seen this pattern on every team. And there was something like this going on. External waiting. Have you heard about external waiting? Yeah? So this means this team can no longer work because there's somewhere another team in this universe who needs to deliver something, and then, they need to wait for this. So I was thinking, okay, so if these guys are waiting for another team, and if each and every team has a board, the consequence needs to be that there needs to be somewhere a second team in this organization. Right? And we see the visualization of this team. And this means when the work is being blocked by team number 1, this basically generates demand for team number 2. They are somehow planning it for a sprint or whatever they are doing. Then they start working on it. When it's being finished, team 1 can unblock the work, right? So that's what's going on when you have this visualization in place. Well, that's good. So what I basically did is I started to ask the teams, whom are you waiting for in a regular basis, right? So I draw something like a dependency chart, and the dependency chart looked like this. So there are quite some dependencies, yeah? So here, on this picture, you only see 8 teams. But in the end, if an organization has, 600 teams, there's more than, 600 people, it's more than 8 teams, right? And there are so many dependencies, but the question is, why? Why are there so many dependencies? Because they did a lot of stuff to remove dependencies. We're talking about cross-functional teams. We're talking about product teams. So one team is only working on one product, and still we see so many dependencies. So there are multiple reasons for it. Yes, it's true. One team is only working on one product. Fair enough. However, there are multiple teams working on the same product. So one team is working on one product, but there are, 3 other teams which are working on the same product. And, surprise, surprise, if you're working on the same product, you have dependencies, right? What else? The products were not completely independent. I think everybody knows this. If you have multiple products or services in your organization, if you change something here, you need to change something over there and there and there. So there is a lot of dependencies between these products. And in the end, we're talking about 600 people. I personally have never, ever seen an organization with more than 30 people in knowledge work without dependencies. So for me, it's just clear that we still see these dependencies, right? That's a real-life dependency chart. It's a real-life dependency chart from a South African finance institute. And what we see here is only the dependencies of this middle square team. We only see the dependencies of this cross-functional team. Cross-functional team, yeah? So you can imagine if I continue to ask the other teams, where are your dependencies, this will basically explode, right? So whenever I think about dependencies, there pops up a picture in my mind. And the picture is about the keyboard. Let's assume our organization is a keyboard, and what we are doing is we are writing, so we are in the writing business. Yeah? So we are writing letters for our customers. All right, fair enough. So now let's organize our organization. Here are the teams. 1, 2, 3, 4. Team 1 is pressing QW, 1, 2, 3. Team 2, QWER. Team 3, ASDF, and so on, right? So that's how our organization is organized. Well, now the customer asks to deliver a love letter. So we need to think how we can deliver this letter now, right? If you are in an organization with 600 people, your organization looks like this. For each and every freaking key on your keyboard, you will find a team who's pressing this key. So we have a K team, we have an O team, we have an U team. Each and every organization, of course, needs an A team. Without A team, you're basically screwed, right? And, well, that's our organization. Now, let's optimize our teams. And let's assume it's working. We have the best S team on this planet. We have the most awesome L team on this planet. And when the O team starts to hit the O button, smoke is coming out of the keyboard. We are international benchmarks in team pressing keys, kind of, right? How much faster can we deliver our love letter? I'm not sure. Yeah. So I think not really. So the point is, when it comes to writing a letter with a keyboard, it's not so important that I press each and every key very fast. It's way more important that I make sure that I hit the right key at the right time. Yeah? If I press the right key at the right time, the letter is finished much, much faster than just hitting the letters right. And the same is true for our organizations. Yeah? The same is true for organizations. If we have teams who are just working fast, this doesn't mean anything. The concept of high-performing teams, I never got this concept, actually. There's one thing what we need to do, and this is we need to make sure that the right team is working on the right stuff at the right time. This is where organizational performance is in. Yeah? Well, I'm, of course, not smart enough to come up with something like this. There's a guy called Russell Eckhoff who already said that the performance of the system is not the sum of its parts, it's the product of its interactions, right? So if we somehow transfer this quote to an agile organization, what we can say is that agility of an organization has nothing to do with agile teams. So it's not about having unlimited amount of agile teams. Organizational agility and business agility means that we need agile interactions between the teams. So the point is we need to make the interactions between the teams agile. And this is something which was not taken into consideration in this organization. This organization was like, we need cross-functional teams. And don't get me wrong, cross-functional teams are awesome. I'm a huge fan of cross-functional teams. Because what you do is you tear down the functional silos. That's a cool thing. However, what they did, they teared down the functional silos and they built up cross-functional silos. And that's not better. So the point is it's not important who is working in a silo. It's more important that we tear down the walls between the teams. That's way more important than to reorganize the silos and build different silos. And this is something which was not taken into consideration in this organization. There was completely no agile interactions between the teams. This was finding number one. I have some more findings. I will stay in the problem domain, and then we will also switch to the solution domain. Okay? So finding number one, no agile interactions between the teams. What else? About the workflow. I also started some conversations with the teams about how they are basically working. So as I said before, the cool thing is there were boards, plenty of boards everywhere. And what I basically did, I challenged somehow the steps on the board. So I was like, okay, so you are developing, and after development, you're done. This means customer is completely happy. And they were like, well, no. The customer is not happy. Development is done. This means, of course, we need to do some integration work after this. And I was like, okay, that's good information to have. So let's just redraw the board a little bit and let's add this waiting for integration column. I mean, that's the reason why we have these boards, right? But then, when the integration is done, customer is completely happy. They were like, no. There's, of course, something like acceptance testing going on, so the customer needs to accept what we did. I was like, okay, so let's put up acceptance testing. That's the reason why we have this board. But now the customer accepted it. Now the customer is completely happy, right? They were like, no. Of course, we need to release it somehow. You know, we have these release windows, and it needs to fit into these release windows, and so on and so on. And I was like, okay, that's good information to have, right? So the good thing is, if we have something like this on the board, this kind of information, we can start to ask questions. And the first question I asked was, how often are you doing this integration, and so on and so on? And the answer was this. Integration is being done on a monthly basis, and acceptance testing and the release was done 4 times a year. We want to improve time to market of our projects. I think we just discovered something, right? Yeah? So this is all part, of course, of your time to market. But the point is, I wasn't satisfied here. I also tried to challenge what's actually going on here in front of the board. So there's the backlog. This means in the backlog, there's your vision, and then you start developing and everything is great. And they were like, oh, no. You know, it's not so easy in our organization. This is the development backlog. And of course, before we start developing, we need to do some analysis work. Okay, perfect. So that's the reason why we have these boards, right? So there's this product backlog, then you're doing some analysis work, and then the development backlog, and then we're done. So in the product backlog, there's your vision, and everything is great. And they were like, well, no. Well, actually, our process looks more like this. So we have a pool of new ideas, right? Then we are doing something like a rough triage, so we're sorting out on a rough basis. Then, of course, we need to write a rough concept, a rough business case of our ideas, which waits for approval from a steering committee. Then we write a detailed concept, which again needs to be approved, and then we can start to develop. All right, so if we take a look at this process, it looks like this. Yeah, and as I said before, I love these boards because now we can again start to ask questions. And one question would be, how often are you doing this kind of stuff here? This was the answer. On a monthly basis, we are doing a triage, which is kind of quick if you take a look at what's going on here. 4 times a year, the steering committee is meeting, and once a year, detailed concepts are being approved. Once a year. We want to improve time to market for our projects. Can you see something here? What was their reaction? Their reaction was, well, development. Problem discovered. We put agility in here and we're so fucking agile, it's just unbelievable. Yeah? Well, I need to disappoint you. You are totally not agile if you are working in a situation like this and if you are spinning this wheel a little bit faster. I mean, maybe this is agile software development. Fair enough, all good, right? But this has nothing to do with business agility, and really nothing. This organization acts lame on the market like before, so nothing changed here. And this was basically my second finding in this organization. There was completely no awareness about the end-to-end flow of this organization. So, finding number 2. I think I got one more finding. As there's 10 minutes less, I will skip some part of the presentation. But this one I think is quite important still. I also talked with them about strategic portfolio. Yeah, because I think that's also quite important. And before we talk about the strategic portfolio, we somehow need to understand another thing. Can you see these numbers on the boards? All these teams had these numbers on the board. What do you think are these numbers? WIP limits, exactly, yeah? So the teams, they were limiting their work in process. Especially Kanban teams, they had this explicit limit of their work in process. So the point is not to start more than you can deliver. Stop starting, start finishing, right? Scrum teams, they also limited the work in process, but differently, with the time slice. So they were doing 3-week sprints. This means for 3 weeks, the work in process was basically limited because they only started so much work that they could deliver within 3 weeks. Why am I talking about these limitations? Because I think it's really important. If we dig a little bit deeper into this topic of limiting and creating focus in an organization, there's one thing that we can find out, and this is that this creating focus and limiting the work in process is basically the most awesome thing you can do in your organization. The best invention of mankind, because we are getting faster. Our delivery risk is going down. Our predictability is going up. Our cost of delay is going down. And the cool thing is, you don't have to believe it, because there's a mathematical proof called Little's Law. And Little's Law basically proves that this is right, what you can read here. Do you see the second bullet? Cycle time goes down and time to market goes down. And it's mathematically proven that if you are limiting work in your system, time to market is going down. their time to market was going up, although they were limiting the work in process. So did they just falsify the mathematical proof of Little's law? Well, no, because there is, let's say, the fine print when it comes to creating focus in your organization. And unfortunately, this fine print, I think 99% of the organizations have never read this fine print, so it's a little bit bigger today. The point is, you don't have to limit any random item in your organization. When you really want to gain these benefits of limitation and creating focus, you need to limit these items where you want to see the benefit. You need to limit these items where you want to see the benefit. So what does this mean? Well, this organization was working on initiatives. This means that's one huge thing, and as they were agile, they split the initiative into epics. They split the epic into stories, and they split the stories into tasks. Do you know something like this? Like splitting something down? Yeah? So, we need to limit these items where we want to see the benefit. We want to improve time to market of our initiatives. What do we need to limit? Initiatives, exactly. I'm thinking agility only on a team level. As a team, what's my area of influence? What can I influence? What can I limit? Stories on tasks, exactly. That's basically where my area of influence is. And I think we see the problem, right? This organization, I mean the teams, they were trying to defend their limits and sprint goals with blood somehow, because you can imagine that the pressure is somehow really hard from the front, right? So they were defending their limits, but they were still working on 1,000 initiatives in parallel. And, surprise, surprise, none of the initiatives was being finished faster. And that's very important. So really, don't be surprised if you don't gain the benefits of creating focus if you're focusing on the wrong entity in your organization. Yeah? And where in an organization do we have access to these initiatives? Any idea? Exactly, portfolio, somewhere up there, wherever up there is, yeah? And this was another thing which was actually totally not, taken into consideration in this organization. Of course, they had some Excel spreadsheets with some projects in there and stuff like this, but there was completely no agile management of these things. So let me fast forward a little bit because I have 10 minutes left, so less than expected. So I will just do something like this, and magic happens, and we only have 3 problems now. So these were basically the 3 problems that I discovered in this organization. So there was no agile interactions between the teams, there was no consideration of the end-to-end flow, and there was no agile strategic portfolio management in place. So if these are the problems, let's take a look at the solutions. Yeah? Well, what were first solutions? Well, let's talk about dependencies first and the agile interactions. Remember, this was where, basically the walls between the teams. So what did we do to tear down the walls between the teams? Well, actually, quite easy in the end. We zoomed out from the organizational structure. We zoomed out from the teams. We put this into focus, what actually creates value for the customer, and this is products. So what we did is we built product boards. We identified which team is working on what product. I mean, this is an exercise that can be done quite easily, especially in an organization like this where you have product teams, right? And then what we did, if these teams were working on the same product, we somehow built a product board, and people were coordinating in front of this board. So what we did, we basically somehow managed the interactions between the teams. We established interactions between the teams. We somehow tiered down the walls. So we basically locked up the teams into a room, and we were like, okay, figure out how you're working together and make it somehow explicit, put it on a board. So product boards were being developed. The point is, boards don't solve any problems. human beings solve problems. Boards are just tools that somewhere stand around in our way most of the time. So the way more important thing is that we need to put the right people in front of this board to have the right conversation. So what we did, we established stand-up meetings and retrospectives on a product level. This means we were having stand-up meetings across the entire product and across retrospectives across the entire product. And that's a cool thing to do. And on some products, 120 people were working, and they were having stand-up meetings. Of course, not 120 people showed up to a stand-up meeting, but the teams, they sent delegates to the meeting, then we were having the stand-up meeting, and then the delegates were going back to their team and having a stand-up meeting there. And we did the same for the retrospectives. And if you do something like this, so you zoom out of the organizational structure and you basically put the thing into focus which interests the customer, your number of dependencies is going down. Because, I mean, technically, these dependencies between these teams, they are still there, but they are managing it twice a week because they are talking to each other and having more or less the overview what's going on, and they can react very quickly now. But there's still some dependency remaining. Remember? There was a situation when we changed something in this product, we need to change something here and there. So there were dependencies between the products. How did we address this? Well, what we did, we built something what I would call today an operational portfolio. Operational portfolio means we basically identified what products do have the most dependencies to each other, and then we basically put these boards into one room, or sometimes we even built another board where we only see the dependencies, if there are not so many dependencies between the products. Yeah? So now, we have all the products on one board, and again, we can put the right people in front of the board so that they can start having a conversation about what's going on. So again, we established stand-up meeting and retrospectives on the portfolio level. And this means products were sending delegates to this portfolio stand-up, having the stand-up meeting, and then they were going back to their product boards. And if you're doing something like this, you're really tearing down the walls between your teams, and that's highly important. Do not forget about this. Do not optimize organizational structure. I, as a customer, I don't care about your organizational structure. If you tell me something about, I don't know, cross-functional teams, high-performing, whatever, I'm like, I don't care. Put this into focus what interests the customer. That's what we did here. Then, there was another thing, the end-to-end management of the value creation chain. Remember, this was this very huge and long board. What did we do here? Well, sorry, my microphone is... Now it's working again. So what did we do to come up with this, or to solve this problem? Well, it's two things. It's just two bullets, what you see up here, but the point is it took more than 1.5 years to get to this point. So this is more like a real huge change effort you need to do. So to put it easy, we brought business on board. And what we did, we simplified the upstream. What does it mean we brought business on board? Well, this organization did not grow up with the internet, so a very classical organization. So it was like there was the business, and there was even a second organization, which was the IT organization. And from the business point of view, IT was just costs. Right? So it was quite hard to convince business to bring them on board, but that's what we actually did, yeah? And we brought them on board, and we also simplified the upstream. Remember, there were, I don't know how many steps here. Now we are only writing a rough concept, and this rough concept is already being approved. And this approval is done on a bi-weekly basis, so all 2 weeks. So we have the ability now to start new ideas all 2 weeks. Before it was on a yearly basis. Well, usually starting new stuff is not the problem that a lot of organizations suffer. However, you only start you are only allowed to start new work if one work item was being finished. So here, we were talking about limiting our working process. This means when one item was being finished, after 2 weeks, we can already start new work. That's what business agility is about. If you are thinking in yearly budgets, if you are allocating money for your projects on a yearly basis, your agility is bound to 1 year, even more, because we know the budgeting cycle usually starts somehow now, and you came up with the idea 1 year ago or so. So that's the problem. So when we talk about business agility, we need to rethink how we budget our stuff. We need to rethink how we start new projects. Annual budgeting is not agile in the end. Yeah. So again, bringing business on board is one thing. The other thing is we need to talk with them, and that's what we did. So basically, all the meetings were already in place. The point is, we just invited business to the meetings, and they were joining our stand-up meetings, and they were joining our retrospectives, which is a good thing to do. One more thing. This was the Agile Strategic Portfolio. Remember. The easy answer is we built a portfolio board. And the portfolio board was more like, okay, I'll just give you a rough overview. So we tried to answer the question, what are we actually doing? And there was one thing is we're making money and we're investing money. Making money means delivering all this great stuff that actually people want to see. And investing money means, how long time do I have?
Well, if there's the break, should be right now.
At 10:30.
10:30, yeah? I'm sorry, I made some mistakes.
No, it's 10:17, right?
Yeah, that's fine. Just
okay,
like if you can
minutes.
close it in 2 minutes, there will be some questions. Don't worry. We like
because 2 minutes would be very fast now.
The whole schedule just because of you.
No. I can do it in 6 minutes. That's perfect. Okay, so no Agile Strategic Portfolio. This means we basically built this portfolio board, right? So we are investing money, we were making money. Agile Strategic Portfolio, this means we were also talking about strategy. So we put up the company strategy here, and what we did, we derived business metrics out of the company strategy, because that's what we actually want to achieve with our strategy board, right? So, and then we were like, okay, and how we are working on this stuff. And then a board like this emerges somehow. And the point is, whenever we start new work here, we need to come up with an hypothesis which business metric we are turning, and we are turning one of these business metrics. We are basically aligned to the strategy. We're working on a strategy. And that's a cool thing to do, because in a lot of organizations, if you go to people who are basically doing the work, and if you ask them, why are you working on this stuff? The answer is, because I have to. That's what the project plan says. That's what my boss says. So there's completely no meaning in their work. They're working on it, but they don't know the higher goal behind it, the objective behind it. And here you basically bring back meaning to the people, and they know why they are doing their stuff and how it ties into the strategy. And I think that's very important. And of course, we established feedback loops on this level. This means we were also having stand-up meetings in front of the portfolio board, and we're also having retrospectives in front of the portfolio board. All right, so these were basically the 3 problems. I need to narrow it down to 3 again. These were basically the 3 problems that we, somehow tried to address in this organization. And if I try to summarize these problems, I think I can only say more or less one sentence, which is just fundamentally true from my point of view. And this means that business agility is no team sport. Business agility is company sport. You need to have the entire organization on board, otherwise it's quite hard that your business becomes agile. And well, when I say it's company sports, I guess the question is, where in an organization can we do this agile magic? Well, there's a model which I kind of like, which is called the flight levels. And flight levels tries somehow to answer this this question, where in an organization can we become agile? Flight level is a term from aviation. The higher you're flying, the more you see, but you don't see a lot of details. And if you're flying very low, you see a lot of details, but your vision is somehow restricted. And the same is true for organizations. In organizations, we can fly very low, and we can see a lot of details. That's flight level number 1. That's the operational level. People who are really doing the operational stuff, that teams, right? Teams who are working. We can become agile on a team level. Usually an organization has more than only one team, so you will have multiple of these flight level 1 systems in your organization. However, what we've seen before, it's quite often the case that we need multiple teams in order to deliver value for the customer. So we need to make sure that the right team is working on the right stuff at the right time. That's what's basically the purpose of flight level 2. Flight level 2 is end-to-end coordination. Here we have an idea, here we have an impact. Across the entire organization, so I'm not talking about development, I'm talking about the entire organization. So if the teams are the keys, this is our keyboard, where we make sure that the right team is working on the right stuff at the right time. And of course we can connect these flight levels together, and in many organizations we have more than only one product or service. We have multiple of these products and services, like what we've seen before. So we find multiple flight level 2 systems in our organizations. And if we have dependencies between these products and services, what we can do, we can build something like an operational portfolio. This means where we are managing our dependencies across the different products. That's still flight level 2. However, we can fly even one level higher, and this is flight level 3. Flight level 3 is strategy. Strategy means what we want to do here is we want to align the entire work in the organization on the strategy, and we also want to limit and create focus on this level, and this really impacts the entire organization. On the strategy level, we also see hierarchies between the boards from time to time, especially in larger organizations. Well, these are the flight levels, and the point is, it's not about better or worse. So flight level 3 is not 3 times better than flight level 1. It solves a different problem. If your teams are not delivering, you can take the best strategic decisions up there, and teams will still don't deliver. Right? The other thing is, if you want to improve time to market of your projects and initiatives, you can blow an infinite amount of agile fairy dust in here on the team level. Your projects won't become faster because the lever is somewhere here in this area. So for me, the flight levels is really like, it's an instrument where we can basically start a conversation to find out where in an organization do we have to change what so that we achieve what we want to achieve. And well, that's basically it. Thank you so much.
I'm sorry, Klaus. I misread an analog watch. You know, it's
yeah, you know,
like the kids who don't know which a Polaroid is. So you're right.
You don't have to become digital. You already are.
Well, perfect. Inclusive of the applause. So who has a question?
Thank you so much for your talk. In this organization you mentioned, you said there were a whole legion of internal coaches, external coaches, and I think it's also clear to assume that the Scrum teams would have Scrum Masters. Why was nobody of these people able to identify the problems and find solutions for them?
Well, I think, I mean, it's only hypothesis, but I think it's a good hypothesis because I've seen it so often. So in the beginning, we start an Agile initiative because we want to, like in this case, improve time to market. And then we build some derivations. So if we want to become, if we want to improve our time to market, we need to become Agile, derivation number 1. How do we do this? So we build derivation number 2. We need Scrum Masters, we need product owners, we need Kanban, we need all these kind of stuff. We need a reorganization. Derivation number 3, oh damn it, we still need something like retrospectives, we need team meetings, we need stand-up meetings, we need all this stuff. And now, out of a sudden, people are talking about, is it allowed that the product owner joins the retrospective? Kanban is much better than Scrum because there are no sprints. But Scrum is much better than Kanban because there are sprints. So we're only talking about this kind of stuff and nobody focuses on the original goal. So the point is, if you're using Agile methods, they are a means to an end. And people often lose the end because it's about installing kind of all these Agile methods. And the aim behind it totally got out of the view. And this was especially the case in this organization. So it was really, when I went there, I really got this awesome discussions. Is the Scrum Master allowed to stop the stand-up meeting after 15 minutes if it takes more than 15 minutes? And I'm like, what are you doing here? You want to improve time to market, and that's what you're talking about. I don't know how this fits together. So yeah, that's a pattern that I see quite often, actually.
Great, thank you.
Thank you very much. My question is, you figured all of these problems out in 1.5 days?
No. Yeah, kind of. In 1.5 days was something like, okay, I was talking to the people, and well, basically after 1.5 days, the problems were somehow clear, but the solution took a little bit longer. But yeah, in the end, it's not rocket science, and it was really great because you could just go to the teams and you could see everything there. So yes. 1.5 days, and of course some phone calls around.
So it was a kind of like a field study for you, interviewing all the people. And
yeah, you just go to the people, and if you have 2 hours, I see a couple of teams. Then I invited multiple teams into one workshop, a half-day workshop, where there were representatives of 10 teams there, so you can get a good feeling. And they had all the Scrum Masters and product owners, so it's quite easy to start a conversation. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you for the talk as well. My question is, if I did understood you right, it took the management a couple of months to get your point and to get their own, to think about their own way of thinking. And my question is, what is your theory why it took so long to see the obvious thing, what has something to do with me or the management in this case?
But actually, I think they were quite fast because most of the time nothing changes in organizations. So they were actually quite fast, and I think, I mean, it's not rocket science what we are talking about, right? So I mean, that's common sense in the end. And usually managers are very smart people, so they understand it. But what I see quite often is that there's one question you need to somehow answer, and this is what's in it for me. And if someone who's involved in the change process cannot answer this question, or I don't get a good answer to this question, what's in it for me, then why shall I change? And the good thing in this organization was that there was something like a sense of urgency. John Cotter would phrase it, a sense of urgency. So they really were like, okay, competitors are overtaking us, our margins are going down, our time to market is going up, so we need to react. So they understood it, but they did something, and that's the most important thing. I think it's not about understanding, that's easy.
I was curious to hear for how long have you been engaged in this project in total?
Well, in the end, so I'm more like I somehow fly in, do some workshops, then they do it alone, and then I come back and forth, kind of. And well, in total, we're talking about roughly 3 years or something like this, for the entire process. Yeah, so because they wanted to change something. So in the end, it was not about agility anymore. It was about, okay, what do we want to improve? And agility is a means to an end. And then the fun starts. Yeah, but it was a longer time frame. So you can't do this in a couple of months. And that's the other thing. A lot of organizations think, yeah, screw in this agility here, and then everything will be fine. No, this doesn't work. Yeah, it's about the mindset, you know.
Okay, there was some hand first there. Okay.
Here. Okay.
Hi, I would like to know how you handled the challenge of the roadmap balance. So as we want to work on the most valuable at the moment, but also we want to finish things, how did you make sure that there were no contradictions or something like this?
You mean between?
We want to have some kind of stable roadmap so that we are able to finish things that are valuable for us. But on the other hand, if we have constant initiatives that are reprioritizing and seeing this could influence priorities below, if we have the 3 flight levels, if this drops down to flight level 2 and trickles down in flight level 1, yeah, how did you handle this?
Okay, so there's one thing that we always need to distinguish. Between strategic work and operational work. Operational work is what we are doing basically now in order to earn money today, and strategic work is what we are doing in order to earn money later. So we basically somehow distinguish this, and on flight level 3, I don't see the operational work. So operational work is being done, I see it on flight level 2, and I probably see it on flight level 1. But I need to somehow know how much capacity do we have for these strategic work, and in many organizations it's not more than 20%. And yeah, this was somehow something like a capacity allocation, where we said, okay, for the future topics, that's what we want to invest, because it's an investment. We don't earn anything with it today, but hopefully in the future.
It's just that if you want to have a faster time to market, and also it counts how fast you can push the initiative down to operation and then have it on the market, right?
Yeah, but this was actually quite easy because there were all these stand-up meetings. So the coordination between the levels, so even on a strategic level, what do you actually think? How often is a stand-up meeting on a strategic level? If you ask someone, how often do we want to do a stand-up meeting there?
How often it is, or it should?
What do you think? What a lot of people say?
Once a quarter.
Exactly. That's the answer, once a quarter. My idea is once a week. So there are usually 2 ideas in the room, and then we can start a discussion, right? So, but that's exactly what we need to have. We need to have fast feedback loops in order to connect the levels together, because otherwise it's just not working. Yeah, so once a week.
Okay, and one last question. Then, Klaus, we say thank you very much.
Thank you
for the talk. Thank you for answering the questions.
Thank you, Sven.
For you now, it's time to enjoy the conference. For you also, if you have, if you're more digital than me, we have this time an event Bert, and Bert will tell you everything you want to know about the conference and where everything is. Even if I do a mistake and I'm completely on with the wrong time, it doesn't matter. Bert knows everything. So enjoy your day, and at least see you later at the mingle, the transfer at 6 o'clock. Enjoy the conference.